دست خواب ده دست من لدرونیا هیودا دست خواب ده دست من لدرونیا هیودا
لو برده لو برده لو دست من برده evin kul derde lo lavo deste من برده evin kul derde lo ko deste من برده
liberde liberde nece deste min berde evin kul derde delale deste min berde evin kul derde delale deste min berde دستاویتم گردن لو خشین کته گوهارم دستاویتم گردن لو خشین کته گوهارم
لو برده لو دست من برده evin kul derde lo lavo dest من برده evin kul derde lo lavo dest من برده
liberde liberde gece destimin berde eminim kul derde delali destimin berde eminim kul derde delali destimin berde تجارم تجبیر ناکم لی سر ترا کسی ناکم گرسه سالجی در باز ولی سوزاق و خیراناکم گرسه سالجی در باز ولی سوزاق و خیراناکم
لو برده لو دست من برده evin kul derde lo lavo dest من برده evin kul derde lo ko dest من برده
liberde liberde gece destimin berde eminim kul derde delali destimin berde eminim kul derde delali destimin berde.
All right, that was a little Yazidi music to get us going here today and to bring in our good friends, the Crimis. Let's see if I can just get everything set up here. I decided I wanted to have a representation of Yazidi women in the background today because they seem to be quite interesting, and I'm sure we're going to find out a lot more about them. Let's bring the Crimis in here. Let's see what we got going here. By the way, welcome everybody to the show. Welcome to the Friday FARcast, and we're going to be talking about Yazidi culture, people, and prophecy with my good friends Steve and Krys. What's going on, you two?
Here already?
Hello,
Hi.
hey Robert.
What a beautiful photograph behind you.
Yeah, I should probably give it a little more justice, right?
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
Aren't they wonderful?
It's actually from a piece. I think that I think Time Magazine did a piece on the effects of war on women, and that's what that photo is from, or that piece. So I haven't actually read it, but I'm sure we'll get into some of that today.
So are these Yazidi women?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. So I think I did mention on the phone earlier about that young woman who had been abducted in the 2014 raid, where they surrounded the Yazidi people.
Yeah, that I saw that as I was scrolling through some of these news stories.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. So, well, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's
Thank
been
you.
what, a year?
A month.
A month.
Sometimes
A month
year
in the
feels
great
like a
year.
month,
Yeah.
doesn't it? So we should be simulcasting here on YouTube. Let me just check because let's see what we got here.
And your old Friday FARcast channel it's still extant, right?
Let's see what we got here. Hold on. Let me just change my channel. See what we got going here. 1 second. Yeah, hold on. Yeah, so we are streaming simultaneously on YouTube and on the website. So that's good. I've wanted to do this for a while. People may feel a little bit conflicted with chat, so I'm not going to disable chat on YouTube today. But it's like, well, where do I go? Do I go over to the website or I go to YouTube? But I need to touch in with YouTube every now and then. Just to because actually this is a true story. There were people that thought I had died.
Really?
Oh no.
I had two separate people within 24 hours, actually 3, if you count Misaki, who thought that I had died.
Misaki thought
Right.
you died?
Oh,
Well, no, he knew that I hadn't died.
Oh, okay.
But
Wow.
he told me that Craig Simpson from Radiant Creators had thought that I had died. And then the same day, Emily Moyer asked if I was okay because there was a rumor that I had died.
Well, in a way.
Well, and we got emails too from people wondering, what had happened to you.
Mhm.
Well, this was like last week.
Oh
this
no, I'm
was
talking
like-
about when you first got bounced off of YouTube.
Yeah, when I first got bounced, but this was just so apparently there was some Telegram group where there was a rumor that I had died.
Huh.
Well,
Okay.
And this was just like in the last week.
kind of adds to the mystery,
A little bit.
mystique-
It's a little
the mystique.
unnerving to hear that you've died, right? So I
think
thought,
I'd be a little
well, I need
amused.
to kind of go back out onto YouTube a little bit just to let people know that I'm still alive.
The resurrection tour.
Well, I don't know, Robert. You could be a clone. You could be a clone of yourself.
How do we know?
And how would you know?
It's true. I think if you're a clone, you don't dream, right?
No, you
But
won't be.
wait a minute
Right,
now.
right.
Do androids dream of
There's a
electricity?
question there.
Right.
It's not a statement.
It is a question.
It's not
So,
answered in the
but
book.
you're right. You're right, Steve. You're right about that. I found this documentary. It's a BBC documentary. It was really fascinating, and apparently there's a website where you can type in your name, details, and a picture, and you can go look for other people that look like you on this
Oh,
website.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, that
So,
makes sense.
so the BBC did this. They basically found, like, I think 10 people, 10 people that matched. And they did a
Wow.
documentary on these 10 people. They brought them all
Really?
together. And they did a couple different things. They did facial mapping
Yeah.
to see how close they were. That was in 2D. They did 3D facial mapping. They did like the 23andMe genetic stuff to try to find out, where they may or may not overlap, or if there was anything that overlapped. And then they did like just a physical face test, and they put these people in a setting, right, sitting down next to each other, dressed in the same clothing, and they had people walk around and make comments.
Fascinating.
And they actually talked to them, and they were interactive with them.
How would I find that?
Oh, just go BBC, twins documentary, you'll find it. So there's some interesting things that came out of it.
Mm-hmm.
There were these two guys, and they were actually the ones that were chosen to be the ones that were most alike. And they were, I think, roughly the same age. They were in the same town in England, and they really did look alike. And what happened was that one of the guys he moved to this town, and he started to show up at shops, and people would confuse him for this other guy. And this kept happening, and it started to get really weird. And then they eventually discovered each other by living together in the same town. Some of these people discovered each other on Facebook. They didn't have to go through this website. But these two guys, they were really interesting because they both went to the same teachers college in England. They both set out to be teachers. One became a teacher, the other became a vicar, right? Which is like a minister or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what's really weird is that they both had sons that played didgeridoo.
Oh, stop.
How weird is that?
So was there any blood test to see if there
So here's what happened. They did an analysis of where they came from, so they could show these overlapping areas of, like, here's where your genetic influence is. They both had almost the exact same genetic influence in terms of where they came from.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
If you've got
And together they were hilarious. I mean, these guys, they were like, long lost brothers.
It's like finding a twin.
It was really interesting. And then they had this one guy, even how these people discover each other is really fascinating. They had this one guy who was American, and he's Jewish, and he's in London, and he's a comedian, and he does a comedy set. And there's a guy in the audience who's watching him, and somebody came up to the guy in the audience, who also, by the way, happens to be a comedian, and says, "I really loved your set." And he says, "What do you mean? I've been sitting down here in the audience the whole time." So they actually met that night in that club in London, and they really did look alike. And in fact, the guy in the audience, who's Israeli, he and the guy on stage were actually related. They were fourth cousins.
Oh, seriously.
So that was really unusual. And then there were these two guys who, on the surface, they really did kind of look alike, but when you got them together, they didn't, but they did. And they were very odd looking. Like, they were really, really odd looking. And the weird thing about these two guys is that one was in England, the other was in America. They both had the same name, and they both had the same trade.
That's freaking.
It was their name was Billy Wright, right? And when you go onto Facebook, there'll be people with similar names that'll show up, and it was like, it was like he was seeing an image. But the weird part is they both had the same trade. So it's a very interesting documentary.
I did see my doppelganger when I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
I went out to lunch one day and went to a pizza place to get some pizza, and I walked in the door, and you could have knocked me over with a feather. The person looked just like me. Didn't know what to do with that. I have no idea what to do with it, but it kind of twisted you around in the wind.
Oh, I had that moment, and it was really weird. I mean, it was so. I've told this story before. I was in the Phoenix Hotel in San Francisco, and they had
Of course you were.
They had a bar. They had a bar and like a little club,
Right.
and they had a lobby where you would check in. And I was with this woman, and we were walking between the bar and the lobby, and there was a very small kind of like hallway and had mirrors on both sides. And I take her through this hallway. I said, welcome to the hall of reflection. And this guy walks past me, and he's a fucking spitting image of me. Just as I say that, I'm like, this is really weird. And we had that moment like, okay, this is too strange. It was almost too strange. Like we could have stopped, right? We could have stopped and said something and say,
He didn't seem to.
True story, right? But we didn't. It was really weird. We had the same length of hair, same height. It was very unusual. And the woman was really kind of freaked out. It was like a David Lynch moment.
There you go.
Sometimes I wonder, because I see the same face repeatedly, or groups of faces, if there are actually a limited number of templates that are worked from. Here he is.
There's only one Jasper, though.
Yeah, that's true.
There may be millions of Gingers around the world, but there's only one Jasper.
Yeah, because
by the way, he was upstairs. He was napping. He was just, at peace. And he decided to get up out of his nap.
It's showtime.
Yeah.
Has to please his fans. What were you going to say?
Well, no, I was just going to say that there's, especially here in Asheville, there's this one type of thin face, pointed beard, psychiatrist archetype that I just run into over and over and over again in Asheville. And they all look, exactly alike to me.
I know what you're saying. There was a friend of mine who was a Scorpio, and he looked like Kurt Vonnegut. And Kurt Vonnegut's a Scorpio. And it's like, okay, there's a Kurt Vonnegut kind of template face out there.
Or a Scorpio face.
A little bit. Scorpio, he didn't really have a complete Scorpio looking face. Usually with Scorpios, they have those kind of slitty eyes, but maybe he could have them, but he definitely looked like Kurt Vonnegut.
Okay, quick Kurt Vonnegut story from my cousin Francine, the pool player in New York. She was at back in the day, they used to have these great book fairs in Manhattan where they would close down the streets and, all the big houses, there'd be tables and all that sort of stuff. So she attends, she's walking around, and there's like Kurt Vonnegut sitting like in a table in the middle of the street all by himself. Right. And he's like, so she goes over to him, starts talking to him. He's like totally pissed off because not one person recognizes him, and he's sitting there in the middle. So he said, I had like a half hour just to talk to him by myself because no one recognized him and came over.
One of my favorite writers. I thought he had just a wicked sense of humor. Yeah,
he's definitely contemporary Mark Twain, for our generation.
Yeah. And Slaughterhouse-Five is one of my favorite movies. Have you seen the movie?
Way back.
I can't even remember it.
Well,
maybe we should.
Yeah, I think I may have only read Ice Nine.
Right, Cat's Cradle.
Cat's Cradle with Ice Nine. Yes, that's it. Cat's Cradle.
They're both good books. I've read them both. Before we go any further, I just want to take care of a little in show business, because a lot of times we'll have the greatest number of views at the beginning of a video, and then they taper off after about a half hour, 45 minutes. So there are two things I want to do. I want to promote something. I want to let you guys promote something. So what I want to promote is I am doing a webinar with Misaki next week. And I started to talk a little bit about it on yesterday's show, and I want to just bring it up here really quickly. So this is a soup to nuts webinar on cryptocurrency. And I am convinced that there is a need for us to be educated around cryptocurrency and blockchain, and that if the dollar does get devalued and we go through a financial reset, we need as many hedges as possible. And a lot of people are kind of afraid of cryptocurrency, and I understand why. And it should be something that should have a lot of respect, that you just got to, it's like, it could be like the 1920s all over again. Okay. But there is a there. And what Misaki and I are going to try to do is to demystify the crypto world for people to make informed decisions about how to use it, what it's about, and some of the more far-reaching possibilities and potentials with cryptocurrency. So it's going to be it's right there. It's on my website, 15 Minutes of Flame, Cracking the Code, Crypto A to Z. And it's going to be a 2-day webinar. We got 3 hours on Saturday. That's the 11th. So it's next week, 3 hours on Saturday and 2 hours on Sunday. So it's a 2-day webinar. And I think if you have any interest whatsoever about cryptocurrency and you want to jump in, this is going to be a good opportunity for you to do that. You're going to learn about private ledgers. Misaki is going to help you set one up, which is going to be very important if you want to keep your assets off of your phone or off of your exchange or off your computer. So the first day is really nuts and bolts stuff. And then day 2, we're getting into the future of where this thing is headed. So if you have any interest whatsoever in this world, you can sign up right down there. Okay. So I'm going to be pitching this now between now and next week. And Misaki does do individual consultations, but this is an opportunity for you and as many people as possible to jump on board and get initiated, get baptized into this world, because I think it's relatively important. And I've had a dance with cryptocurrency off and on and off and on. But as far as kind of hedging, we need to have as many hedges as possible. And I think it's a good hedge. So, and I also want to talk to you guys about this new book. You're doing pre-sales on your new book. And do you want to tell people a little bit about that? And where is the pre-sale link on your website?
It's soon to be. I set up, there's another story that you don't need to hear, but I had to set up a separate page because before I set it up as an official book on my site, I have to have the book officially done and the cover and all that sort of stuff. And so learning my website is only slightly more complicated than learning crypto for me. So it's coming together. I put it this way: anybody who's interested in or pre-ordering the book, we're doing a pre-sale with no shipping cost from now, probably until the end of the year. The publishing date is Bridget's Day, February 2nd, 2/2/22. So we're hoping that's an auspiciously dual day. And so it is. And as I talked about last time, it's the book about this woman who in 1969 was abused by clergy in her high school in Baltimore. And really her and a number of other students were shopped around. The nun that caught onto it was murdered by someone. It's still unofficial, but we know that this particular priest had to be the one involved. And he was shipping these girls out to, the police department, the politicians of Baltimore, et cetera, et cetera. So, but it's a story of her recovery from it. And it's a really great book. It's called Walking with Aletheia. And Aletheia is the goddess of truth within the ancient Greek world. And the pre-orders have been going really well for us. It's the first time that we've actually done that. But
how do people get to the pre-order page?
Yes. So either I'm going to put up a link either in the after notes, because I don't have it in my head, because it's a specific page in the website, but you won't get it just by going to the website. or people can email me.
Or just email Logosophia Books.
Just email me at Logosophia. Someone did buy the book from the chat room last week. Thank you very much, Jane.
Oh, Jane. Yeah.
And
Thank you, Jane.
so anyway, so that's our website. But like I said, I have to set up a specific link to that. I have to make this new book, the splash page book, and all this stuff, and I have to relearn it every time I go through it. So that's a long.
Looks like this is a Mindy's book. Is this a work of fiction here?
Yeah. So this is also another book, and her third book is going to be coming out. Hopefully, we're doing that early next year. So this is the finishing of this trilogy. This is the trilogy where she develops a fictional world around the ever after. So the after the ever after on the fairy tales of Cinderella and Beauty and the Beast, Sleeping Beauty, and Snow White. So she interweaves this story in this world, and is interestingly enough, the first book had a plague in it before the current iteration, and the second book has a war, which can be argued for in this iteration.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget what the third book was about. I read it a long time ago, and she's got to send me the new version that we'll edit and get out. And then I'm hoping to get my book out. I was hoping to get it out by the end of this year, but it's probably not. Well, it's December. No, it's not going to happen by the end of this year. So it's another book coming out in the spring.
But tell them what that's about is.
And my book is called Hermes Runs the Game, and it's about how the template for sacrifice and initiation in the ancient Greek world was being played out in the last 2 years through the whole debacle, and it's still playing out. And maybe that's why I can't quite finish it yet, because it's really not over yet.
It's a really good overlay of how mythology is lived out in our current life and in the current burning issue of the day, which everybody knows what that is. But it is, I have to say, it's brilliant. I'm loving it. And the artwork is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's going to be almost like a picture book.
It's going to be beautiful and oversized, articulate, and very insightful. Cool. And hopefully a guide through this morass that we're in. So if you're looking for some kind of psychological support or spiritual or mythological support for what we're living right now, this is going to be an amazing tool and adjunct to your awareness, so you can see how to move through this life.
Why, thank you. Sounds like the back cover pitch.
Well, you could do a transcript, but I love it. I think it's phenomenal.
Thank you.
So
tell me about the cover of this book. It's a pretty cool cover.
Right. Yeah. So this is I can't remember, a friend of Mindy's mom who's an artist, someplace in New England, Maine, I think. And so she came up with some, with a bunch of watercolors to go with it. And then our book designer, Susan, Susan, our book designer, Susan Yost, designs all our books magnificently.
She's incredible.
She designed the cover from the artwork. And so, yes, so the disappearance of unicorns, the lack of unicorns plays a role in the book, and the power of the unicorn horns in this within this fallen civilization that Mindy writes about. The book, so book 1 and 2, I think we have a special sale if you buy the 2 of them, and the third one's coming out in the fall. And Mindy is just a brilliant writer. And I've often said that, these books are why I got into publishing, is to bring out things like this. She's just a great writer. You read her sentences, you say, wow, I want to read that sentence again. And there ain't nobody out there that I feel that same way about.
Her writing is very evocative. So it seems to generate, it's like a generator of images in your mind, as she's so descriptive in a poetic way that when you read the sentences and paragraphs, images just form immediately in your mind. So you want to read them over again because they're so delicious. Is
this a book that like a teen could get into?
I don't
There
know.
is, well, just,
I
I'll
think
just
so.
say there is sex in the book.
There's sex in it. Oh,
So
There's passion. It's about, so it has all the aspects of life are involved in
well,
it.
is it Portnoy's complaint or is it done with some taste?
Oh, it's done with great beauty.
Nothing wrong with that.
But there are, there's 4 marriages, and it's very funny. For us to get a book onto Publishers Weekly is very hard for an independent to get a book reviewed on Publishers Weekly.
Right.
And the first book, so you have to realize the publishing world has become woke like everything else, of course.
Sure.
And so the people who are reviewing books, so what's the criteria that she panned the book for was the fact that it was like straight up heterosexual relationships.
Oh my God.
Princes and
God forbid
and
that.
princesses, and it's
Right.
like, well, but it's, she's taking from the friggin' fairy tale. I'm sorry. And I know that whatever, now, whatever it is, Captain America is a woman or whatever they've got going on now.
Right.
Superman.
It's all flipped upside down.
It's all gender dysmorphia. Anyway, anyway, so just to show you the state of idiocy going out there. And these are the people who are reviewing books for people like Publishers Weekly. So anyway, we did get some really nice reviews that are on the website that people can read.
Good. Excellent. All right.
well, thank you,
Shall
Robert.
we
Great.
jump into today's,
Okay, unless you want to do Chris's page now before we.
what's that?
Oh, I don't know. I sent you the link to my art page. I
Oh,
don't know if it should be in that
While we're
email.
doing
with the-
business, sorry to keep up.
okay.
Meanwhile, I'll show this is actually a painting that I've shown this before that Chris did called Peacock Angel,
which is
featured
appropriate
prominently.
for our topic today.
And so on her artwork page, you can get mugs and pillowcases and
You can get art prints, you can get canvas
so
prints.
where is, I know you said you sent it to me. Was there like
It's in
a,
the email with the picture of the peacock from Istanbul University. I said,
okay.
remember I told you that my link was there in that email?
Yeah, hold on.
The header on the email should say,
So there's one more peacock, but that's not the peacock.
link to Chris's artwork. It
Yeah.
says. It's on Fine Art America.
All right, hold on.
You can get pillowcases, you can get bedspreads, you can get tote bags, you can
iPhone
get Christmas
cases?
ornaments, you can get, it's amazing what they do. You can get all kinds of
There it is.
iterations.
Thanks, Robert. Appreciate you going.
That's
Yeah,
very
sure.
nice of you to do that.
Meanwhile, hi, everybody out there. It's always good to be back with Robert.
And I'm sure in Chatlandia right now, everybody's just talking about something entirely different.
Well, just to put it out there, we, feel very fortunate that we've been doing shows here since 2016.
Oh, there you go. Okay. There's the
So
page.
really good looking stuff here, Chris.
Thank you, Robert.
Very
Yeah.
good looking stuff.
Yeah, I ended up doing these vortices for some reason.
There's your
I got-
pizza. You've been busy.
Well, I haven't even gotten all the newer stuff up.
Oh, so this is stuff that you've already done?
Yes. Yes.
So these are all paintings and
And I've got 2 or 3 more that I haven't even photographed yet to put up.
It's awesome.
and I'll probably put something out on Logos. The paintings themselves are also for sale. But on here is just,
This is really great.
Thank you.
I love this. This is fantastic. This blue.
I had so much fun doing that. I did it and then it was not it didn't come out right.
right.
And I painted over it, but it didn't go away. It bled through. So I just painted over what bled through and made it finer and it came out really good.
So not to demean this, but this would make a great coffee mug.
Right.
Oh yeah. Oh,
It's-
I think so.
It's all over.
Yeah.
Well, it's a very famous plate pattern.
it's the blue willow pattern. So that's
Uh-huh.
those birds are two lovers, and it was a tragic story, and they had to escape from the evil stepmother or something like that. I don't know if I think they drowned, and then they just were taken up into the celestial realms as birds.
Mhm.
It's a classic story. Most people know it.
Well,
It's
I'm
called the
glad you're
blue
doing this.
willow pattern.
This is great. There's another person connected with Chatlandia who is turning her life in a completely different direction. And she's going from being a massage therapist, and she can't do it anymore because of, the restrictions, the rules and restrictions. So she's taking to art, and she's making this incredible transition. And I'm gonna post some of her work next week.
Oh, wonderful.
And I think a couple of her things are for sale. So very different than what you're doing, kind of more contemporary collage style visuals, but really, really good. And it's like,
Good.
I think it's really important that people don't give up the game, right? I mean, this is a time where we have to find different parts of ourselves, and what we do, I think, if we have the networks to support these works, it's important to, because who
Right.
else is going to do it,
Right.
right? I mean, we've got to support each other, and we have to support one another's talents, especially if they're worthy.
Yeah. I've also got a boatload of hand dyed yarn, some of it hand spun, some of it machine spun, but I've got that all cataloged. I need to get the Etsy page up, but that's not done yet. So.
Right. So I think these are really great things. And, one of the things that Masaki and I are going to talk about are these .eth web domains, which means that you can essentially put your material on a .eth web domain, and now you've got a blockchain
Oh, so you can get
website.
paid in Ethereum, or?
You can get paid in Ethereum. All you need is just to have your, chriscrimi.eth or
So in other words, I would put my artwork up and I could get paid in.
You get paid in Ethereum, but you're yes, and you don't have to go through a 10,000 number code or
Oh, that's nice.
your code. It's yours. You can send and receive from that .eth web domain.
Okay.
And not only that, but you can build your website on top of that, and now it's in a blockchain. So if enough people do this, theoretically, if the lights go out, we've got these blockchain websites that could be kind of this Web 4.0, and we could have a whole network of these websites that are interdependent of the quote unquote standard internet. So these are important things to think about. Some of the stuff that we'll cover.
That's great.
Because we've invested so much time in this virtual world, and whether it's recordings or whether it's e-com, right? We've got to figure out a way that if the game changes, that we just don't get hurled back into 1993, which is not necessarily bad, but it cuts off a great deal of our ability to do commerce and share our things with other people in a way that's not going to be truncated or modified or just completely removed. So I'm not necessarily against returning to something more organic and analog. Like, you should have a window of your world to what's around you physically, obviously, but we should also figure out how we can secure our domain in this. It just doesn't belong to them.
Right.
We helped build this fucking world.
And
through our attention and through our money and through our exchange, right?
All our
so
activity.
we have some real estate that we need to protect, and I think the .eth is a way to do that. So we'll talk
right.
about
Yeah, that's what.
more
Yeah,
of that
that's where
later.
we have. That's what we have is we have a little bit of Ethereum, so we're kind of set up at least with that, and you keep on, and that's a really hopeful thing that we could come back to. We could eventually reinvent a much less invasive form of the internet based on that. And I keep, as I was thinking the other day, we're so bombarded with, with ads and commercials with everything, with every page, right?
Oh,
And it just dawned on me, what would, in the metaverse, it would be the same, you'd be, you
Oh,
and your
that's
avatar
interesting.
would be like
oh,
tootling along.
they've already, companies have already bought space in the metaverse.
Yeah. Yeah. You think
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just going to be your space. No, you're going to have all these things come out. And that's right out of Philip K. Dick, where these, these little, helicopters or things like that would be following you around, yelling advertisements just for you. Or there was one book where somebody, somebody owed money to, would send these little things around to chase you around, and all that sort of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
I could just, the metaverse isn't even going to be what they
And then you
portend
really
it to
can't
be.
escape.
You're not
can
going to
you?
be able to blow your nose without spending, a Bitcoin of
Kleenex
theirs in
tax.
there,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, it's a frightening proposition. And, I think we need to do our best to map out our own terrain.
Good.
And I don't think we're incapable of it.
Oh, no. We're
I think
very
we're-
capable.
No, this
We're
is what
very
we're,
capable of it.
and, we, and in a certain sense, if we didn't have the great antagonism going on at the moment, we would just kind of slid happily with as things are going along,
Mhm,
and just kept on keeping on.
mhm.
Are you
Well, shall
referring
we-
to how we got here?
Well, I'm thinking, it's as Empedocles said, it's love and strife is the engine of existence, and love is Aphrodite, and strife could be Eris, chaos. I don't think he ever gets explicit about it, but it's the breaking apart and pulling together, and that's how that's really the engine of existence. And we are in a period of great strife right now, but that also
It's great opportunity.
great opportunity and great
Yeah.
freedom, whereas love binds you,
Right.
and can overbind you, so strife leads to individuation and all that sort of thing. So,
Mhm.
and so you have to have it. And that doesn't make it fun. None of this is like fun, at least not for me and Chris,
Oh, I'm
um,
having a blast.
So anyway,
So I want to jump into the Yazidis, and we've got about an hour to cover a lot of ground with them.
okay.
Before I do, last week on Sunday night, I really got into kind of a deep dive with Robert Bly. I don't know if you caught that or not.
No,
Part of it.
we crashed early.
I mean, this is kind of part of your world, Steve. What do you think of Robert Bly?
I had a couple of old books. There's one called Leaping Poetry, which
Mhm.
was a lot of translations and also a lot of other poets in there that I really liked. That had kind of a mystical bent to it, and that was kind of the only thing I was reading. And I read Iron John, and I thought it was good, but I thought it didn't need more than one chapter. It's not a lot going on there that made me want to read the whole book. But anyway, so he seems like an important. I know a lot of people I like. Like our friend Jordan, not Jordan Sather, but
False.
Jordan Fultz, Anesthesia.
Oh, Poppy Aesthesia.
Poppy Aesthesia, right? We've had on a couple of times. So we were at their wedding this fall, and he had me read a Robert Bly poem, which was kind of nice. But he actually wrote he wrote two verses in its.
Yes,
to
he
be,
did.
To
He
be,
inserted
to be an
something.
ending to it, and that were better than I thought than Robert Bly's verses. But
But,
so anyway, that's a lot to say that he's not a big person in my poetry reading world.
Yeah, I think as a poet, he's probably, I wouldn't call him a minor poet, but he wouldn't be a major poet. But I feel like his work, in retrospect now, you go back and you look at what he was talking about and what he was trying to do with men. It was like so spot on and so bang on. And
Especially
the void
Mhm.
is what brought us to this place in a lot of ways. The void between fathers and their sons, the void between even fathers and their daughters in a lot of ways. and this atomization of the family and unhealing or not healing the grief of the father, the relationship with the father. It's really powerful, the lack of initiation in our culture.
Important. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he was very instrumental in helping Martin Prechtel in his recovery. So you remember Martin is a shaman from Guatemala. And he wrote Secrets of the Talking Jaguar. His books are phenomenal. And after the death squads came into Guatemala and wiped out the village that he was in, he had to escape they were after him. There was a price on any shaman, they were after them. And so he came back to the United States from whence he came, and he was living in the woods with his wife and family. He just escaped with what was on his back, and he was in complete and utter despair. And someone told Robert Bly about him, and Robert Bly went to him and pulled him up by the scruff of the neck and said, "Your work is important. We need you in the world. You can't just spiral down." And he lifted him up and kind of helped him to get out on the circuit.
Yeah.
I think Bly did that for a lot of men.
Yeah.
And I think he probably saved a lot of lives. And
I was thinking of Martin when I heard you say that Robert Bly had passed away, and I was thinking Martin must be really in mourning because he was pivotal in his life.
So in that regard, I think he's a very unique and singular character, and maybe I would say highly underrated as a spiritual teacher, and specifically for men. As a poet, I think he's kind of a minor poet, minor poet, but that's beside the point. All right, let's get in. Let's do this. You ready?
All right.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the Yazidi culture. You got a bunch of pictures you sent me, which we'll just use as talking points here. And let's we'll go into the folder, and let's look at this one. And it's actually I use this, Krys. I could not use that other image; it was too big.
Seriously?
So I had to use this image for the sort of the placeholder here. So we got a big golden peacock, and the peacock is a pretty significant symbol, apparently. So why don't we start with the peacock here?
Right. So the peacock is Malek Taus, M-A-L-E-K or M-E-L-E-K, and sometimes spelled T-A-U-S, Taus, Malek Taus. And so Malek Taus is called the peacock angel, and he is the head spiritual being for the Yazidi religion. And the Yazidi religion, and it's very confusing and it's very difficult. No one even knows where the name Yazidi comes from. They think it might be from this person Yazid, but just to be basic, they are Kurdish-speaking people who have been in what is now called Kurdistan for a really long time. And the fact is that they consider their religion to be very old. It probably is pre-biblical. It might go back to connections to ancient India, certainly ancient Persia. And they don't know, like I said, again, they don't know exactly where it came from. The current iteration, but anyway, the peacock angel, so tends to be kind of monotheistic. There's God, and I forget the name they use for God there. But this God is very, very removed from human affairs. Okay. The story, so there's a story in the Quran where where Shaitan is shown God's creation, Adam. God says to him, "Bow before Adam, this is my creation." And Shaitan, Satan, Lucifer says, "No, I won't bow before Adam. I'm greater than Adam." So it's a point of arrogance, and then he gets cast out of heaven. The Yazidi version is that God asks Malek Taus to bow before Adam. And Melek says, no, my covenant is with you. I'm here to worship you. And for that, Melek is rewarded with control over the earth. So very, very different dynamic. And that dynamic is at the heart of the Yazidis being called Satanists, because they'll impute a certain degree of shaitan, and also one of the names that Melek goes under is Azazel, who is the same as shaitan often,
Right.
Within Islam.
Right.
So the peacock angel. So the peacock angel is that's the person who runs things on the planet. And he's either the head of 7 angels. 7 is really big with them, or he's separate and there are 7 angels under them. There's so much confusion. One of the reasons is that there is really no book in Yazidism. They have been an oral tradition as far as anybody can go back. And so what they let out and what they don't let out is up to them. And in fact, they actually had something like a enforced illiteracy on most people, and that only the upper people would be allowed to read, and the rest of it was all passed down orally. And it's almost like something out of Plato's Republic, where there's there are definite castes in Yazidism.
That's really interesting. I was just watching this really fascinating documentary on the Boule Society in America and how the Boule Society got started. And there is that same kind of promotion of kind of this scholarly and educational elite, and then this whole other group, which is kind of outside of that world, and then that group sculpts the narrative for this other group, right? That isn't being let into those doors at places like Harvard, where really Boule starts to take off. So it seems like it's a model, right? You have this group that is cultivated, they're given, a certain amount of knowledge, and then they control the narrative for the rest of the group. Would that be like in alignment with this in some ways?
Yeah, I think so. I think there are there are like families, and in fact, you can't marry into Yazidism. I suppose
you can marry in, but you can't marry out.
Well, you can't marry a non-Yazidi. You can't convert to Yazidism. So it's finite, which makes it difficult, and we can get into that. The fact that there's much more diaspora going on, especially since what ISIS did in there in 2014 in a lot of the areas.
So theoretically, this group would be a very interesting control group for genetic research.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
Very much so. And they claim to go back to Adam. And the area where they live is very close to what is seen as the Garden of Eden.
Here, let's look at their map.
Yeah, so you've got, that's real interesting. So what you're gonna, so you see kind of Turkey's in the middle of the map. And if you go to the bottom right of the map of Turkey underneath Lake Van, that's an area called Haykari. And part of the Yazidi story is that they were, the current iteration of Yazidism was reformed by a Sufi teacher who came from Syria to Haykari. And Haykari is an area that you can only get to like half the year. And it's the area I traveled in when I was in 1983. It's really, really intense. The whole place just is so biblical. So they're mostly kind of in the area where Turkey, Iran, and Iraq join. There's like one point where the 3 countries meet. And mostly their main city called Lalish is in northern Iraq, north of what you see is their Erbil. And they have a large population, or they had a large population in Mosul and all that area. So it's a really mountainous, very intense area. And it's an area where you could have, pockets of people living in, relative isolation for a long period of time,
Because it's so
Right.
you know? So yeah, oh yes, I was going to say about the caste too. It's even apparently less or more frowned upon to marry between castes within Yazidism than it is to
Marry outside of it.
marry outside of it. The first time I ever heard of the Yazidis was actually when I was traveling there in '83. I was reading Gurdjieff's Meetings with Remarkable Men, and there's an infamous tale in there where he's growing up, and kids would draw a circle around a Yazidi child, and the Yazidi child could not step out of the circle. And they would taunt the kid, and he couldn't get out of the circle. And as kids do, even on this level. And eventually, if someone erased a part of the circle, he was able to escape and run home. So that was the first I ever heard.
And we
of them.
never heard any more about that. That's the only place that I've ever heard that story told.
Right. He doesn't get into it. But so there's, Gurdjieff's not going to tell a story
But I
unless
wonder, what is that pointing to?
there's a mystical thing about circles and enclosures and beliefs and things like that.
I
So
know.
supposedly
I know.
the Garden of Eden is supposed to be somewhere around here.
Well, more around like
Yes.
or Lake Van, in that area as well, and closer to Azerbaijan. But I was just
That's
thinking,
what I did a deep dive into this a long time ago. So my files have not been updated, but I remember spending a long time trying to locate the Garden of Eden. Most scholars were talking about it being in Iran.
Right. And then after Göbekli Tepe, which is sort of close to the Syrian border where you see the Tigris, there's a city there that says Silopi. That's kind of where Göbekli Tepe is. It's across from the Syrian border.
At least I want to say, I don't say most scholars. I want to say some very specific scholars.
Mhm.
Saying that
Yeah, I was
that
reading
would be
it.
an overstatement. But it was somewhere in here,
Mhm.
right? Somewhere in Iran. So the peacock is a symbol of pride.
yes, it is.
Yes, it's also a symbol. Go ahead.
You finish your thought.
Okay,
I
go
had
ahead.
something I was going to say.
Go
But
ahead.
finish
Say
your
it.
thought.
Say it.
Going back to the Yazidi children and the circle, it just flashed into my head because we were reading this morning about the peacock angel when he returns. One of the signs will be this conjunction of the star Sirius and the pole star. And there will be a rainbow around the sun, but a perfect rainbow, a perfect circle. And a lot of the sheikhs have been studying this, and every time they see a particular type or form of rainbow, they study it for any imperfections. And if there's one little opening in that circle, it's actually portends a bad thing.
Right.
But I'm wondering if there's any relationship with that perfect circle and the child being
Mhm.
captured inside, because that would be a unified experience. That would be a state of unity, and no movement is permitted in unity.
Mhm.
It's a state of stasis. But if there's a crack in that circumference, then that's the imperfection, and there's escape, there's movement, then there's movement, then the child can move out. So that's what just flashed into my head, what that could be pointing to.
Right. And the perfect circle is pretends the movement into what is the fifth world, where we're supposedly, according to them, the end of the fourth world.
Okay, so go ahead, then you
So-
finish your thought.
That's it. I don't remember.
Okay, fine, thanks. But I think that's a possibility as an explanation on a spiritual level, like
Oh, the
why,
peacock.
why is there no
Mhm.
movement? Why is the child trapped if that's a perfect circle?
Mhm. Well, and you also have to look at the peacock as the representative of the full effulgence of manifestation.
And the tail is also like an arc of a rainbow.
So that the peacock angel would be the controller of all aspects, of existence, of all the beauty, all the color, all the variance.
So Polaris is the pole star,
Mm-hmm.
and it is at 2834 Gemini.
Polaris
And Sirius is in Taurus, fixed star in Taurus. It's a long ways to go if they align. One of them's gonna have to change.
Yeah, it didn't feel imminent, at least that aspect of it.
Yeah.
Unless something happens and the pole star shifts dramatically.
Steve, when is your birthday again?
24th. Chris's birthday was last Friday.
Well, happy birthday, Chris.
Thank you. I am one day in the great year now.
Steve, is your rising sign like late Gemini?
It actually turns, it's what's right after Gemini? It's on the other side. It's right on the other side. It's
Cancer?
in Cancer.
Right. So Polaris is conjunct your ascendant, I think. It's interesting. Anyway, just an aside.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the landscape of this place.
And Polaris, of course. All right. So these are shots. So that's that town Haikari that I kind of pointed to, and that's the whole city, and that's how it sits, ringed by these fantastic mountains and closed in. We can run through these relatively quickly. They're just to show you what this area is like, where they're from.
Okay, let me get another one up here.
Yeah, we when I traveled with my friend Peter, we went right around those borders, the Iranian border of Turkey, of all the then Soviet border. Let me just do a little quick sidebar. Could talk about a border that keeps people out.
Mhm.
So I went to visit the ancient Armenian city of Ani, ANI, which had been abandoned for hundreds of years. Those are three Kurdish children on the hillside doing something with pickaxe, probably scrounging for firewood and roots or something like that. Anyway, the Ani was right on the border of the Soviet Union. And so the border, and you could only go visit with a Turkish soldier, and you couldn't take a picture because right across the border there were a bunch of Soviet sharpshooters who had permission to shoot you if you pulled out a camera. So we didn't bring our cameras, didn't try to sneak any pictures. And then, so the border into the Soviet Union was a barbed wire fence, 100 yards of landmines, another barbed wire fence, and towers maybe every 50 yards apart.
Wow.
With the shooters in it. So I'm thinking, that would work pretty well here.
Mhm. If you're serious.
If you want to, I
Protecting.
think, well, that's a border no one's going to cross.
Or
Yeah, that's
even
a hard
bother to
border.
tunnel under if there's land.
That's
Yeah.
a hard border. Did
You know?
Did you see when Peter Ducey asked Fauci about Fauci was talking about how people are going to have to come back when they come back in. They're going to have to
Right.
test,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
And then Ducey asked him about, well, what happens when people cross the southern border? Are they have to do the same thing? And Fauci says, no, that's something completely different.
Yeah.
Well, we're hampered by some, I don't know, some rule, regulation, order, number, whatever the fuck it is. So we can't do anything because of this, specific kind of order that we like. Number one, how and why does Fauci know about that? And why should he be the one that actually makes the decision about
He
that?
shouldn't.
Right?
Why should he be the one making any of the decisions that he's made?
I agree with you, but in that moment, he's basically telling him about border policy.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He told border policy, business policy, everything.
But you're saying he even knew the
He knew
the number of the edict.
he knew the exact talking point order that he needed to reference, which basically
Mhm.
said, our hands are tied. We can't do anything now.
No,
Right,
yeah, I know.
right.
I feel for him. I feel for him truly.
So what do we got here?
This is
Landscape,
this is Lalish, Lalish, which is the spiritual capital
right?
of Yazidistan, and that is the tomb of Sheikh Adi. So he's in the 1100s. So he came to he kind of brought he was like a Sufi teacher. He came in there, and this sign kind of updated Yazidism a little bit, and kind of maybe brought a little bit of Islam into it, because they worship. I mean, because in they go so far back that they worship fire. They don't, and of course they're antinomian. Nomos is law in Greek, so they go against all the laws, especially Islamic law. They'll drink wine. They won't pray 5 times a day, and they point to that temple when they pray, not to Mecca. So they're not very. Through the years, they've not been very popular amongst Islam that surrounds them.
I tell you, man, they need an influx of new blood in their religion. Come on now. It sounds like a pretty good religion.
Well, this is the thing. So this is I don't know if we can get into later. We can talk about it now, because just trying to see what do we now. That's the pass into Haikari. You can see a little bit of the road towards the bottom middle.
Right.
That's kind of the pass that we went through to get through there.
That's some rugged terrain.
You were in a mid-sentence.
Yeah. So, well, the thing is, so in 2014, ISIL goes in, and as we know, they killed a lot of the men, and they enslaved
The
the
women.
women, and it was just horrific. And the Obama administration went and did nothing. So they started, they had been before that to a certain extent, because there was other, troubles under Iraq, certainly since the invasion of Iraq and all the realignments there, and the reassertion of the Kurds in northern Iraq, and they're developing, a semi-autonomous zone up there, and the control of the oil fields in Mosul, which are very close to there. So they have a diaspora. A lot of them went to Europe. So they have, Holland, Germany, places like that, where they have communities. And in the US, apparently, I think there's one out in LA. So the question is, I guess what I was trying to understand is, their reaction to being forced away from their spiritual base and forced into kind of isolation in other communities is kind of like, I feel like we're some of us at least are going through now, being, isolated from our government, from everything,
Right.
and look at, Germany is now doing what Austria did, they just signed on.
Mhm.
This is my favorite picture I ever took. These are Kurdish children. This is a village right on the border of Turkey and Iraq. And they did not speak Turkish. And I had no idea what those flowers are that they were holding. And I guess they were bringing them back to the village for some reason or another. I couldn't really talk to them, but it's really interesting, especially like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 6th one from the left. He's like standing at attention.
Yeah, I was going to say, this kid's fucking serious. Look at him.
Right.
He's like, he is like, these are my people. Right?
He's carrying it, isn't he?
That's your future chief right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Here's your alpha.
Well, you've got to figure 83. This is in the area where the PKK was.
Yeah.
And this was just as they were starting their uprising. So 83. So that was a long
He's
time
probably
ago,
50
wasn't it?
years old now.
So almost 40 years ago.
Yeah.
83, yeah, almost 40 years ago.
Mhm.
So I would guess that all these people, all these children were in the PKK at some point,
Yeah.
in some way, shape, or form.
And none of them are smiling. You know, you would
No.
see it in a picture like this, you might get one kid who might smile. At least one, maybe more. There's not one smile there.
No.
Yeah. Well, and you got to figure, all right. So at the time, I mean, there's a whole long story around this, but at the time, there were no Americans going to this area, my friend and I. And in fact, the night they took this picture, we were taken and let's just say questioned at machine gun point by the local general for several hours, who wanted to know if we were smuggling. And they couldn't, he didn't find anything. And, you know, at the end, you know, of a tense couple of hours, he gave us a piece of chocolate and talked about how much he wanted to go to Disney World. And
It saved you a lot of time and heartache by just giving you a piece of chocolate in the beginning.
right. And then he says, you know, there's a bus, the town was at Louderay. There's a bus leaving Louderay at 8 o'clock in the morning. You will be on it. And we were. Yeah.
It's a great picture.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite picture that I've ever taken. You know, but yeah, they'd be serious because they wouldn't know who the heck was coming in. Who are these people? And when we got to the village, there was just like one old man. All the men were out somewhere, maybe working fields. I don't know. There was like really nobody around, you know. So very, very intense biblical place. So this is the entrance to the tomb.
So this is, yeah, the eastern entrance.
And the tomb of Sheikh Adi, which is like their center point. Everybody around that whole area has to go barefoot.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. There's no shoes on their feet.
Yeah, and it's almost in the whole city, except like on the outside, but around the whole central point, all the pictures see everyone is barefoot. If not, maybe sometimes wearing socks. So there you have the second symbol that makes you connect them, that makes people connect them with Satanism. You've got the snake that's charcoaled every day, apparently.
Right. So the worshipers will come in, and before they go into the entrance, they'll mark it with charcoal and kiss it before they enter into the building.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah. So it gets into a few interesting questions. Yeah, and there may be another one. I try to get a close up with the images over the doorway, but they're kind of hard to read. They have a language. They do have an alphabet, it seems, that looks, you know, a lot like it's taken from cuneiform, with those like little triangles at the end of sticks and things like that.
Here's another landscape photo there.
Okay. Well, this is going back to my trial. This is the pass from Turkey into Iran. And that's the palace of a Kurdish robber baron named Ishak Pasha, who built that, I think, in the 15 or 1600s. And I've got a little bit more of a close-up of it. But anyway, so that's the pass that he guarded and extracted toll from. It was probably like a part of the Silk Road.
Yeah, because you can see the road here on the right and these electrical towers, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's to run electricity up to there. It was it was like a museum.
And then on the left,
I'm definitely going into John Levi territory here.
Yeah. Oh, it's incredible. And I think
how do they do this? Right. I mean, where do they get the materials from?
well, it's all stone.
Yeah.
That's all local stone.
Apparently
And there were other buildings on the left.
Yeah, that's probably a newer mosque.
But you can see, if you pull the picture, you can see on the left there are more, pull the picture to the right so you can see what's on the left. There you go. See, this looks like there's some other.
Yeah, that's like an ancient mosque.
There on the hillside.
So, and that was a really interesting place. And I got a story from that, but I don't think we have time for it today. Because we tried to sleep up there and it was a mistake.
Oh, really?
And
did you guys get busted?
Well, no, we got by Kurdish dogs.
Oh, Kurdish dogs. They didn't like it.
According to Gurdjieff, the most vicious dogs in the world, and we were surrounded by them trying to walk back at night.
Here's those symbols you were talking about.
Right. It's So very much so. Their flag too is like that. So their flag is a solar disk, very into the sun. They they will kiss where the first light of the day lands every morning, right? And so they're very much into. So they're
You think they'll
considered.
do that in the metaverse? Let's
I think-
let's kiss
Oh,
on
you
the
kid?
first light of the green sun
Well,
in the metaverse.
Oh, they'll kiss the ground where the
You'll-
light strikes.
well, you'd be so flexible in the
I'm-
metaverse, you can kiss your own arse.
I love that.
That's
That's
right.
good.
On the pediment here, you can see it's hard to make out, but those are two
You just
peacocks
put
with
weird
their
thoughts into my head, Steve. Thanks for
Before
All right,
you
Chris,
kiss
go
it
ahead.
goodbye.
That's all right. Those are two peacocks meeting in the middle. You can just make out that their beaks are meeting in that middle part, and then there's the body and the
where are they, here or up
on the
here?
pediment,
On the
on
triangle.
the triangle pediment.
Yeah, here.
Come
And-
up, and then
on
you
either
can
side of them.
just make out the form of a bird on the right and the left,
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and I think those are two lions.
I was gonna say there's some other animal forms.
Yeah, I think those are
This is
two
pretty-
lions.
This is, I mean, come on, this is pretty high level, pretty exquisite stuff.
It is.
It is.
If I was playing John Levi right now, I would say this is like older pre-reset stuff. This would be really old, really, like, if we're talking about resets, this would be the reset before the reset. That's what I would say.
Okay.
Well,
And look how exquisite I mean, you know,
But
Just
why
use-
couldn't
just use-
well,
people
use
then
your
do
logic.
exquisite work? I think
well, yeah.
could we do something like this today?
absolutely, absolutely. Why not?
My
We could do this today like this, with this
course.
kind of,
I don't see why not.
Okay.
Have you ever seen carvings from Indonesia or where were we? In Thailand, in Bangkok? The wood carvings that people are doing today for tourists by hand.
the wood carving. We're talking stone here, right?
So what? So
Okay.
you just use different tools, no?
Then why aren't we doing it?
I think people are. I don't think Americans are doing it necessarily, but I do believe other older cultures
Well-
are still doing that work. It's astonishing what people are still doing.
Well, good. We need more astonishment.
Yeah,
Okay.
when we were in Bangkok, we saw a lot of examples of people working with wood, but still, stone carving. Your uncle was a stonemason.
my uncle did that kind of work. So
Yeah,
that's the close
on
up
the
of the,
cathedrals.
Did you take this picture, Steve?
yeah,
This is a pretty spectacular picture.
isn't it? Yeah, it's a spectacular place. And what you can't see, so like the plane that you're facing, if you go off to the right, that plane goes right to Mount Ararat. Mount Ararat just rises right out of the plane. That's why it's just so spectacular. I mean, it's a long way. We were actually in negotiations with somebody who wanted to, take us up Mount Ararat, but I had dysentery so bad at that point. I couldn't. I turned to my friend and said, "Look, I can't even climb the stairs. I don't think I'm going to make it up."
That sounded like a challenging trip. You got attacked by Kurdish dogs. You got harassed by the generalissimo of the village. You get
Mhm.
dysentery. I bet you learned a lot from that journey.
It was completely initiatic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it made me who I was then.
All right, here we have some more exquisite stonework.
Oh, the stonework in that part
So-
of the world is just
So the story, at least that I was told, was that this Kurdish robber baron was so rich that he could hire the best stonemasons in Persia to do work like this.
Mm.
This is this is a part of that palace. I mean, just look, just even the little piece on the bottom, that scroll work on the bottom right there.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I think it's pretty.
Well, somebody had to do it, and it didn't matter who. And this doesn't matter. It's got to be, to me, that's all human, because that's all part of the human imagination. The
I agree with
structure.
you. I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying that attention and that attention to detail and that ability to do things in that medium, I just, you don't see a lot of it now.
You
And
don't.
No, you don't. And even if we get to the new Yazidi temple, you can see there's not a lot of, amazing carving,
No, there isn't.
and a lot of that is lost. I remember they were trying to teach, ghetto kids that at St. John the Divine Cathedral in Manhattan.
Yeah, the
You know,
stone cutters.
They were trying to teach them, what was left of sculpting, because as far as I know, the cathedral's still unfinished.
Here's kind of a look at their attire here.
Yeah, there's some great old, so I think there's some pictures. I think this is from the 20s or the 30s, maybe. And apparently back then they wore braided
Yes,
pigtails.
that's right.
That was part of what the way men wore. I'm guessing this person would be of the upper caste of a two caste, because of his wearing white and the particular hat and
Actually,
like
this outfit that I've got on, I bought in Turkey, and I'm guessing this is Syrian, this particular iteration of the lace work. But it's from
Is
that
it representative of your caste?
It is.
It is.
It is.
The artiste.
My tribe.
The suffering artiste.
I felt, honestly, when I went to Turkey, I really felt like I had been there before. It felt like home to me. I fit
Same
right
here.
in. There was a feeling of homecoming.
Yeah. And the second time we were back, I felt like this is home for me, and I'm just like visiting the United States in between trips to Turkey. So this is
Apparently they're like completely trashing, was it the lira or whatever, the Turkish
I saw that, yeah.
currency is? They're getting good. They're getting ready to go to reset mode in Turkey.
Erdogan is tearing the place down.
Yep.
He's had the press has been, poorly treated there. Arrests all the time. Still trials.
I have friends here in Fredericksburg who are Turkish, and one of them just got back from Turkey, and he was amazed at how much cocaine was being sold and distributed in Turkey right now.
Oh,
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
Really? That used to be, that used to be the hashish capital. The player used to be with the Knicks. I don't even know where he is now. Enes Kanter.
Yeah.
He just became a United States citizen.
He changed his name too, didn't he?
He did. I forget what it is, but he's not allowed to talk to his parents in Turkey.
All right.
Because he said negative things. He's insulted Erdogan, which of course is like the worst crime you can.
So
commit.
apparently Erdogan's son lives in Michigan. Did you know that?
No.
Huh.
Yeah,
No.
These are what my friends told me. He lives in Michigan. He's got a bunch of land in Michigan. He's of course quite wealthy.
His son, his brother was selling oil to ISIS when we went there.
That's right.
His Erdogan's brother, was selling, trading fertilizer for oil across the Syrian border with ISIS.
Yeah.
So this guy probably has a few things to say right here.
Right. So these are, so they have a long, and it's kind of funny. They'll what was the story we were just reading about? So somebody asked one of these guys about the snake outside the door, and what did he say?
Oh, it was something about some Christian artist did it, just to be nice. And he's like,
just
no,
decoration, right?
I don't think so.
So they're like, like when the people came to the Native American elders, and after they took their land and everything else, they said, well, now give us your spirituality, because we deserve it. We're just by showing up here,
Right.
And they'll just, tell them anything.
Right.
So are there more photos yet?
Oh yeah, there's a lot more photos.
Let's whip through them real quick.
Go
Also,
to-
I wanted to give a little plug for Andrew Collins' book, From the Ashes of Angels. So I've been reading this one, and he talks about Enoch and the fallen angels, and it all takes place in this exact same area in this Kurdistan and around Lake Van. And the angels came down and talked with Enoch and brought the writing. So Enoch was a scribe, and the angels taught writing. And he said that the angels were there in his father's time. And so somehow there's a connection in with this beginning of this culture with the fallen angels.
Interesting.
And
Yeah, it's a really very good book. And
yeah,
he's had a lot of trouble. He wrote another book on Göbekli Tepe. And I guess he had a little bit of a run-in with one of the tour guides at Göbekli Tepe, or one of the archaeologists rather.
the archaeologist now there.
And so they banned him from Turkey.
Wow.
There is a YouTube video. If you're interested in the topic, you can look it up. Just look up Andrew Collins in the YouTube channels, and he gives the explanation of what happened, what took place there. But I think his research is quite interesting.
Sounds like it.
He's a great he's a tremendous.
Sounds like he'd make a good guest.
You should.
He would be, yeah.
That would be great, Robert.
You know, like the English, you know
Yeah.
how the English people are slightly prejudiced. And he's a Cockney,
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
you know, and so, but he's a Cockney scholar and they can't handle it.
Well,
But
that's
he's
great.
a rogue scholar. He's not
Yeah.
trained as an archaeologist, but he's more open-minded because he isn't. But his research is very, very detailed and very particular. So I give him some credit. I think he's done a great job.
Cool. All right, here we go. This guy's looking pretty sharp.
Yep. They got the sword and the vest and everything. So I forget how long ago these were, but these are probably from like a really early traveler there. And, you know, because this is what, you know, before photographs, I guess, really. And you can see a little tent in the background. But he's all suited up. And I think there's a woman also from the same.
Yeah, the woman was interesting because when I looked at the woman, I saw something in the woman. I think this is it.
Now, even though behind you, the women are all together, we watched a few videos, and the men and the women, certain dances, they dance together. You know, it's not, they're not as segregated as other places.
And the
in the
women
Middle
were
East.
also on and part of the priestly caste. So they
Right.
were able to perform ceremonies. And
I could be totally wrong, but when I looked at her, my hot take was that this reminded me of somebody from the Cherokee tribe,
huh.
because the Cherokee actually kind of dress like this.
Yes, they do.
Yep.
And even the profile, you know, is sort of, the Cherokee are very interesting because they're not just like one people. They're a real, I don't know, kind of a polyglot of different looks. It's really interesting.
Yeah, and because they covered a lot of ground. They're from, you know, Georgia up, you know, up to around here.
And Oklahoma.
Yeah, one of these days I'd love to do a show on the Cherokee because they're fascinating. I mean, you get people that are basically pale skinned and red haired inside of the Cherokee, and then you get darker versions of the Cherokee. They're almost black, and they dress very Western, and they have their own language. It's like, it's a very interesting group of people. It does not fit into the narrative of what.
Tell you who's really interesting is the Melungians.
The what?
Melungians.
The Melungians.
So they think it might have been a Turkic people, but they ended up in Tennessee.
In Tennessee.
And Virginia. Yeah.
Really curious story.
Yeah, because
maybe we could do some research.
Yeah, because the Spanish. So Spanish people, the Spaniards, when they came to these mountains, actually the first settlement was not that far from here near Boone, but before Augustine, before the first settlement in the United States, the first fort was built not that far from here. But yeah, so the Spanish got here and they found these people who were speaking something that seemed like Portuguese. And so one of the theories is that they, Francis Drake,
you remember all the details.
freed a ship load of slaves off of a Spanish ship, and some of them were Moroccan. He took some of them back home, but the ones who wanted to stay, he dropped off of an island off of North Carolina. And they made their way up and intermarried, and these are supposedly the Melungians.
Are they the Melungians?
That's one of the stories.
There's all kinds of really weird stories about people that are in certain parts of the world that shouldn't be there.
Right.
Like there's an island off the coast of Mexico that is filled with Chinese that have been there for like three generations or more.
Huh. Mm-hmm.
And the story is supposedly that a Chinese boat like sunk near this island, and they went to this island. They wound up staying on this island. I don't know if that's the real story or not, but it's a very, you get these weird pockets of displacement. It's like, how do these people get here, and what are they doing there?
Right. So the Melungeons, and like I said, the Cherokees. Well, the Melungeons were, intermarried with natives and what have you, but their DNA runs them matrilinearly back to Turkey, and so there are like sister cities between like Wise, Virginia, and cities in Turkey.
Interesting.
So this is a new.
Yeah, this looks totally modern.
Doesn't it? Clean.
I mean, not modern in the design, but you can just tell it's clean. It's kind of not weathered.
There's no romance in it at all.
Yeah, and I sorry. So certain against, I can agree with you that. So like there was that mosque that when we did when we went to Turkmenistan, not Turkmenistan.
Oh,
we went to
not Azerbaijan. I got Azerbaijan in my head. Where Nursultan Nazarbayev is the president.
Anyway,
Kazakhstan.
We went to show there was like a new mosque there, and I agree. It doesn't have the same feeling as the older ones and the carvings and all that. There's a certain divine aesthetic that's just not there. This isn't bad. This is really nice. But
so it looks sterile to me.
And you've got the seven angels. You got the seven conical towers, fluted conical towers around the one large one. So the large one would be the peacock angel, and then the other ones would be his other angels. Another thing about the Yazidis is that they reincarnate, which is completely absent from anywhere around there except for India. I don't know if the Persians believed in reincarnation.
So I think we have one more picture here, and there's one I want to go back to. And here's the picture. I think it's the last one in the series.
I hope people are enjoying.
That's inside the new temple.
Right. So
we have Saturn worship with the cube, but it's a different. It's not black. It's kind of white and variegated.
Yeah, and it looks sort of rectangular. Yeah.
What's that?
It looks sort of rectangular.
It's still cube-like, right? It's like you got the cube thing going on there. I mean, maybe that's just what they want to do in order to put something here. But I guess the main piece here is this flaming peacock.
Right. So again, it's the fire.
I couldn't tell if I guess it's backlit. I was trying to determine, is it backlit or is there a window on the other side that when the sun comes in and strikes it, that it lights it up. But either way, it's pretty impressive. But it is very cold, actually.
What temple is that?
So this is in Armenia. So this is
the new one.
A rich Armenian business, Yazidi business person had this built. It's not that long ago, probably within the last 5 years or something. And it's nice as marble, but I don't know what services, because they don't have like a regular service or anything like that. They have holidays. They have a big fire festival
and the water festival, like a baptism.
Right. You can talk about that.
Well, you talk about it because
they have.
There are springs inside that at Lalish.
Yeah, there are springs that are connected with their prophets,
the temple.
Sheikh Adi, and so they bring people. So they have one festival where everyone's brought in, and anyone young is baptized there. So with prayers and things like that. And I guess that kind of solidifies you as a
Well, I
Yazidi.
would say that if you're interested in the topic, we found some really good channels on YouTube. If you just type in Yazidis or Lalish, Lalish,
Hmm.
you might find some interesting video. There was some really nice descriptive ones where they take you inside the temple. They show the rites that they're doing with the baptisms and the water rites, and that the women are performing the rites as well as the men, which is very unusual.
Yeah.
That you don't see that in the Muslim faith so much.
Did you
This
ever
guy's
come
up close and personal.
Yeah. Well, that's it. They kiss everything that's holy. I was gonna ask you, ever come across a channel called Let's Talk Religion? I forget his name. He's
Philip something.
Philip something or another, but he does these half-hour videos on all these he does one in the Yazidis, one on, various Gnostic sects. He's a scholar of religions. And
He did a really good one on Surahardi.
yeah, and he's very clear. It's called Let's Talk Religion. It's a really good site for, just introductory half-hour kind of
Yeah, he's really good.
things. And he understands, the mystic bent of things. And so he's very enjoyable.
Well, he must be a practitioner because his pronunciations are all right
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, he's some kind of a Sufi.
And it seems like he's not reading notes, like
No.
he's really speaking extemporaneously. He does a very good job.
Trying to find the picture here that I wanted to bring up. Wish I brought it up when I brought it up. I think it's here.
Which one was it?
Yeah, so it was this. I don't think I actually brought this one up. Maybe I did. I don't know. Here, we got about 10 minutes left. So
All right.
let's see. It's this one. Did I post this one?
Oh, no, you did not.
No,
No, this is the lettering that Steve was talking about, that with the triangular pieces, it looks like a linguistic.
These are sigils.
right. Very interesting sigils. Again,
These are total sigils right here.
Right?
right. It's and this other the six sticked figure with the with the
On the left.
trumpets on the ends on the left. That's all over the place. I don't know why those four have it and why those four don't. I've not been able to uncover any kind of.
I've seen this
explanation
symbol at the Museum of Natural Sciences in New York City.
Oh, really? It does look familiar, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah, it's in
Maybe
another,
around.
also in that gold embossed peacock. It's at the bottom right. There's a name for that symbol. I forget what it is.
Yeah, and I'm guessing it's it has for them especially would have solar aspects to it.
To me, sigils are technology. They're spiritual, one would say occult, but also I think energetic technology. And
you mean a linguistic technology?
No,
In what sense?
like if you go, okay, so
Mechanistic?
Steve, put your fingers in your ears for a second here. But if you go and look at a lot of the Tartarian, quote unquote,
Oh, that's right.
seriously, you look at a lot of their structures in where they talk about cities being laid out as like grids and tapping into the etheric energy. All their churches, supposed churches, they've all got sigils coming out of their onion domes or whatever,
Right.
whatever they're using, right? And they're not crosses, they're sigils. So these sigils, I believe, are connected to different states of energy and they have specific uses. And what's happened is that they've taken these sigils and I think that they've absolutely inverted them or used them in a very different kind of way. Right now, sigils are used as almost like occult power tools to bind people,
Right.
to spells or bind people to their will or to use them in some fashion that has what I would call negative correlative. But I think that sigils they're technology. These are technologies.
Well, an argument could be made. So the person who we studied with here in Asheville, Robert Gilbert, has the Vesica Institute, and Emily and Laura took some classes from him as well. He has partnered up with Ibrahim Karim, who is an Egyptian architect who has studied this energetics of the body. And so what Ibrahim did was he said, well, let's say what would be the electrical impulse that's given off by a healthy liver? So he takes his pendulum and he sits with a pencil and paper and he looks at the healthy liver and he works his pendulum, and then the pencil will say, okay, go left, right, up, down, whatever. And he comes up with a sigil, what he calls a biosignature.
Mm-hmm.
He did that for every organ and system in the body, in the human body. What would the healthy, signature, biosignature, electrical impulse signature be for each organ? Then he drew those symbols and he imprinted them on a medallion that you can wear. And then your body goes into resonance with those healthy impulses. That sounds very similar to what you're seeing.
I totally buy into it. Was this created in 1990?
Well, this particular drawing was.
So somebody's hip to this. So this is a contemporary rendering.
Yeah, I think it's an older thing, but yes. And I just realized, picked up on the sickle moon on the bottom too.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, this is also, it was kind of funny. When we were in one of the old temples in Thailand, we went to this old wooden building, which predated all the marble buildings and whatever that they had, temples they had there. And on the ceiling were sigils like that. And I didn't know, so at the time we were thinking maybe they're constellations. You still don't know, but it was this, and it was just on this ceiling of this wooden.
Yeah, each panel had a different configuration, so we could probably hunt that down, and maybe next time we meet, we could just
that'd be cool.
Show people. It's fascinating.
Yeah. Well, we're just about out of time here today.
Well, good.
Well,
what about
that's perfect.
Chatlandia? How's everybody doing out there?
Yeah. Well, I'm not real sure. I'm sure they're fine. I don't really want to.
Oh, you're not.
Because we got these.
You're not able to.
We got these split worlds.
Okay.
And I'm going to blame it on Steve, the Gemini.
Can I quickly read something from Blake?
Yes.
Maybe to close it out. This was quoted in Cauda Pavanis, which is a book about the Yazidis and their antinomianism by Peter Lamborn Wilson. It's, for some reason, it was supposed to come out a couple of years ago, and it's not.
Do you need the light?
No, but he's quoting Blake here from the Proverbs of Hell, just to sort of help out with understanding this whole devil thing. Actually, Peter Lamborn Wilson writes this. I thought this was interesting. Only with monotheism does Saturn become Satan, and love, sweet love, become a crime deserving eternal damnation. Blake and Shelley would have understood this. So this is from the Proverbs of Hell, and you'll everyone will know the first line. The road of excess leads to the palace of wisdom. He who desires but acts not breeds pestilence.
Breeds pestilence. I love that one.
Right? The pride of the peacock is the glory of God.
Right. Yep.
The lust of the goat is the bounty of God. The soul of sweet delight can never be defiled. As the caterpillar chooses the fairest leaves to lay her eggs on, so the priest lays his curse on the fairest joys. Exuberance is beauty. Sooner murder an infant in its cradle than nurse unacted desires.
Yep.
One law for the lion and ox is oppression, for everything that lives is holy.
Yeah, man, he really nails a lot of those proverbs from hell. They're great. If the fool should persist in his folly, he would be wise. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Eagle never lost as much time as when he submitted to learn from the crow.
Say it again. The eagle
never lost as much time as when he submitted to learn from the crow.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well,
the fox provides for himself. God provides for the lion.
Yeah. Well, the lion is the the god of the animals.
So it's been great catching up with you two.
Yeah, well, I hope everybody
This was
enjoyed
fun.
our little scattered trip through Yazidistan. Thanks to everybody for listening. Yes, please, if you can, support what we do with art and books and all that. We do our best to try and to bring some beauty into this world.
Absolutely. So logosophiabooks.com is the website, and you can do the pre-order. Steve, you better get on that, brother. Get that pre-order page up and running.
Right.
Yeah. I'll throw something into the show notes. I'm glad. Good to see you got back on YouTube.
Well, I could have gotten back on YouTube about 2 months ago. I just haven't done it. But once people said that I was dead, I felt like, I should probably have a little bit of a footprint here every now and then.
Right.
Well, good. They'll be extra glad to see you back.
I'm glad the rumors were greatly exaggerated.
They're a little over exaggerated. All right, you two take care.
All
We'll
right.
see,
Many thanks, Robert.
Bye. Take care.
I guess
everyone.
we'll see you in 2022?
Oh, that's it. Yeah. Yeah. No predictions for next year.
Okay. All right. Take good care. Love you both.
Bye.
Goodbye,
And,
everyone.